So glad you could all make it tonight to hear Amanda Bottorff and Adam Clay read for you tonight. I'm going to do a brief intro and then ask Amanda to come up, and then I'll come up again and introduce Adam, and then at the very end we'll have time for just a quick Q&A. And so if you have questions or if you're listening and a thought pops into your head, hold on to it until the end, and we can talk about it. As always, I'd like to thank NISCA for their support. Their support makes these events possible and allows us to offer them to you all free and to the public, and it's just great. So thank you all for coming, and I wanted to call your attention up front and then again at the end to two things that are available for sale today. We have over here Stranger, Adam Clay's new book that my poetry students have already been reading and enjoying, and you can read from this mostly, but maybe a couple other things. And then our incredible Book Art Center has, again, and this is being sold through our bookstore for $16, and they can do credit card stuff. Just come talk to me. Book Art Center has made another beautiful broadside of the last poem in this book, and Adam has signed them. They're numbered. They're a limited edition of 75, and they are $10 tonight, and I believe $20 after tonight. So come up, check them out at the end of the reading. I think they're really beautiful, and I'd like to thank Heather Buechler and Elizabeth Ingham, who printed these and did an amazing job. So that's what's coming up. All right. So first up to read tonight is Amanda. She's a junior at Wells, majoring in visual arts and minoring in creative writing. She says when she's not finishing a story at 3 a.m., she's eating cookies in bed and watching cartoons. And that sounds about right. But I wanted to say that Amanda is one of those writers whose work conveys her mind, and so it's pretty screwed up, but it's wonderful. And there are some people who, when they write, you know, this is just honest, and its strangeness and its wonder is due to a kind of radical honesty. And I find that deeply refreshing and exciting and a treat to experience. And this essay that Amanda's reading tonight won the nonfiction contest from last fall. And I just want to keep saying nice things to embarrass her. It feels so good, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to let her come on up here. Please welcome Amanda Bottorff.
So thanks everyone for coming, and thanks Adam for being here to read. Thanks Dan for putting this shindig together.
I'm glad that ended with indig.
So the piece I have for tonight, it's a nonfiction piece I wrote in class last year, and it's called Playing in Traffic, so I'll just go for it. The moon looks like a big white cookie. I stare at it hungry, aware that it's out of reach, sewn into the sky's dark coat, while I am trapped in the fringe that drags along the dirty sidewalk. I lay in the road, staring up at the moon and wishing I was at least its dimmer incandescent twin. Then maybe I could be sewn into the sky's dark coat too. Then maybe I could reach out and have that big white cookie. I close my eyes, I open them. I focus on the dark outlines of the trees. Their heads are bent as though they are whispering across the street to one another. The space above the road is a flume, siphoning those voices from the beating of the wind and letting them flow past my sight. I close my eyes. My palms are face down, pressed against the pavement. My skull feels like a dead weight. And the more I think about the distance between me and the moon, the more I begin to breathe like there are bricks stacked on my chest. I am conscious of the fact that the earth could carry me as high as I need to go to have my cookie, if it and I weren't so forced down by the weight of gravity. At that moment, I I am torn from my thoughts by a pair of bright white eyes and a humming crescendo. I barely roll onto the sidewalk when the blare of a car horn sends me to my feet. I start heading back towards the college campus, but it only takes a minute for the same bright white eyes to return, accompanied by the same loud car horn. I manage to yell, "Fuck you," as the car does a quick 3-point turn and speeds away. Those late night meditations tend to earn me strange looks and blaring car horns. Occasionally, a good Samaritan type will stop and ask if I need medical attention. And I say thank you and shake my head, but really I want to shout at them and tell them to mind their own damn business and let me lay in the road in peace. I understand why people have to say those things. Empty streets at night are where horror movies begin, and laying in the road is something normal people just don't do. But I can't help myself, and I can't help thinking that the moon looks like a big white cookie, even though I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to do that either, because it just does. When you go to a small college, it doesn't take long to be known as the strange girl who wanders at night. You get on the radar in a very under-the-radar type of way that makes me think of the difference between names and faces. It's much easier to be a face than a name. You're always recognized, but far less approachable. When I'm spotted by the casual passerby, I imagine they say to themselves, "That's just the strange girl who wanders around at night." If they knew my name, they might call to me. They might ask where I'm going. There might be some dreadful exchange of pleasantries. I'd rather be a face. I haven't always had access to dark streets at night. It's hard to make it outside to do your late night brooding when your mother has the hearing of a fruit bat and concern for your well-being. When I was still in high school, the same energy that drives me to my late night wanderings drove me to actively rebel against all forms of routine and order. I hated being on time. I was consistently and deliberately late to my high school classes. On my way to school in the morning, I would allow myself to take long, philosophical detours because the normal path that the other kids followed seemed far too direct to me, especially in the winter. The field that separated my street from my high school was warm beneath a long white blanket that I wore knee-deep holes into. I would trudge along its perimeter until I came to the pond that met the wood line. The bare trees looked like a row of hands I wanted to shake, and there was a large boulder perched on the edge of the semi-frozen water. It had been the perfect place to sit during my morning meditations, until I learned that it had also been the perfect place for several people to lose their virginity. After that, I sat in the snow by the banks of the pond, looking beyond the sex rock at my high school. All I could think was that it was a bleak, square building with a lot of fucking windows. My high school dean was Patty, because Patty was in charge of people with last names ranging from A to G. She had a small, cozy office conveniently located next door to my morning economics class. The visits were plenty, but at least the walks were short. I liked Patty because she was a realist. She knew that regardless of the punishments I would receive, I would still be frequenting her small, cozy office. And since I had the good grace not to make my war on structure a personal matter, she had the good grace not to take it that way. It was always my morning economics class. I'd stroll in, long after the final bell. A quick conversation later, and I was strolling back out, with my teacher's contemptuous glare behind me. When I stepped into Patty's office, she would be on the phone. Yes, of course, she would look up. She's here now. That was my cue to take a seat and say, "Patty, how have you been?" The same since yesterday. Was I here yesterday? Silence. Amanda, she began on one particular occasion. Do you have a rough idea of how many times you've been late to school this year? I really didn't know. Maybe 10 times or so. 113. You have 113 lates. 113. I couldn't have been more proud. 113 days out of the 180 days in the school year. And the worst punishment I had received was lunch detention. I was a rebel. That's impressive, isn't it? I asked. I'll give you that, she said. Your economics teacher is complaining, though. Well, that one's got a massive stick up her ass. Patty had to pretend not to smile at that comment. It's not about her anyways, I continued. You don't understand, it's the rush. There's nothing like it. You're right, I definitely don't understand. That's why I'm not going to tell you to change your ways. You should do what makes you happy, but just know that when you go to college, I won't be there. Then she gave me my yellow slip, my golden ticket to lunch detention. Downstairs in the woodshop room, 2 other regulars and I ate our lunches in silence. One of them was named Billy, and he smoked a lot of pot. I didn't know the name of the other one, but it didn't matter because eventually he was arrested for setting a cat on fire. The shop teacher who ran the detention was an aggressive-looking man. He was bald, with a thick, large beard, and an expression that made me think he had been inhaling toxic fumes for far too long. Detention was great. I was there for my tardiness. It was a technical rule, which meant I didn't really belong there at all. For some reason, it gave me the same rush as my philosophical walks, and at the end of the day, when I went home, I got into the habit of hanging my detention passes on the fridge for my mother to find. Amanda Nicole, she would yell, "What is this?" "It's my lunch detention pass, Mom. I got another one." "Why is it hanging on the fridge?" "Because I'm proud of it." She was horrified, to say the least, but my mother believed in the individual. In the present, I've taken to laying on roads at night instead. There's less external conflict and a thrill that transcends juvenile rebellion. Sorry. Just as Patty knew, I knew I'd have to find a more realistic way to experience the rush. There's no concrete punishment for laying on roads and wistful thinking. Is there any water anywhere?
That's cool.
That's what friends are for.
Yeah, up there, what you got?
I got this. All right, got it.
There's no concrete punishment for laying on roads and wistful thinking. People will just think you're odd, and if you've succeeded in making people think you're odd, then you've succeeded in becoming a rebel to social order. A victory much greater than any won in a bleak square building with a lot of fucking windows. I don't know what's happening. Routine is stifling. The perceptions of other people are too permanent, and even my own physical limitations unsettle me. I hate confinement. That's why it's me in the moon tonight. My head is back and my palms are kissing the pavement. The tree this still a distant lamppost. The big white cookie of my dreams is on an invisible thread, and in that sense we are incandescent twins, holding tight to the ends of a thin line. I close my eyes. Peace out.
I loved sitting next to Amanda's mom for that. Thank you so much, Amanda. It is now my privilege to welcome our visiting writer, Adam Clay, up to read. I have Adam's bio here, which I will tell you about for a hot second. He's the author of Stranger, the most recent book, and A Hotel Lobby at the Edge of the World, and The Wash. His poems have appeared in all sorts of incredible magazines, Plowshares, Crab Orchard Review, Boston Review, Iowa Review, many other reviews. He's a co-editor of Typo magazine, which is one of my favorite and very long-lasting magazine. How long has Typo been? 13 years. And he serves as a book review editor for the Kenyon Review and teaches at University of Illinois Springfield. All of that is wonderful and amazing, and is why I'm very excited to have Adam come up and read. But I want to tell you one other thing, which is that when my first book came out, I was trying to organize a book tour with a friend who also had a new book out, and we had this hole in our schedule, and it was somewhere near Kentucky. And a mutual friend said, "Oh, you should reach out to Adam Clay, because he's teaching there." And we said, neither one of us knows him. We like his poems. We're strangers. But we thought this is what you do. So we sent out an email and said, "Hey, we're coming through. You don't know us. Can help please?" And Adam responded by saying, "You're going to stay at my house. I'm going to set up this reading. I'm going to have my students get credit for coming to your reading, so there will be, people there. And it's going to be at this amazing art gallery, and then I'm going to take you out to this dinner, and it's going to be at a Japanese tapas restaurant in Kentucky." and it's going to be amazing, and it's going to change your life. And we showed up, and Adam Clay is who I think about when I think about how grateful I am to be part of the poetry community. Someone who is that generous to strangers, someone who is that excited to share poetry with his students, and someone who will take that cold email out of the blue and turn it into a friendship. And that is something really special. So that's what I wanted to introduce. Please welcome Adam Clay.
So sweet. Thank you, Dan. Yeah, it was an amazing meal. It's incredible. It's kind of mysterious Japanese restaurant that had 2 employees, someone waiting tables and someone cooking, and they had no telephone. You just had to show up, and they didn't take tables more than 6. No children were allowed. It was a very strange place. Really great food. Yeah, it was a great meal. I'm so happy to be here. I think just talking about this idea of literary citizenship and seeing what's happening here has been super exciting. I've had the day with Dan just to talk about what's happening here, just to talk poetry, and it's been really, really wonderful. So thanks for being here on this. Is it still raining outside? We've been inside for a while. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna. By the way, I have a little bit of a cold, so I'm sorry about my voice. It's better than it was. And there's a microphone. I'm gonna start off by reading the opening poem from Stranger. It's called "To Take Note of Where We Are." Plainly spoken, I am responding to you. Despite our best wills, our best efforts to will it shut, the proof of this world's existence can best be seen in its insistence, in its opening up. Should we get lost, let us be lost in a familiar space, surrounded by every motion of the unnamed and unseen until the moment they appear. With a sofa in a slightly different place this morning, the room resembles a dream of the room. The details remain present and realistic, while everything bends toward one wall in particular. I know what you want, but the wind will not concern itself with us. Some of my poems are kind of conversations, and that's a poem to John Ashbery. I think all my poems maybe are to John Ashbery. So I put my book in the closet, the little office space with all the books by John Ashbery's book. So it's like talking to this. So it's great. I asked Dan what some of his students have been reading and maybe talking about. So I thought I might read some of the poems from Stranger that the class has been discussing. It's still kind of surreal to think of people reading my book and talking about it in the classroom and writing like notes and stuff. So I hope if you have questions, I would love to talk about it. I'm going to visit with you some tomorrow too, I think. So this is called Compost Hymn. A worm split into must be an ideogram for something. Once someone said nothing incomprehensible on earth can exist. Rather, one's vantage point obscures understanding past the point of sanity. Yes, this world belongs to scavengers, and yes, we are briefly a part of it. The city could be any city alive enough to be mistaken for an elsewhere. Often our linear notions are nothing more than whims. The weather carries this thought like a balloon to the clouds, the lake below a memory of a door boarded up from inside. This book, Stranger, is sort of written in 3 different places, in Michigan, where I lived for a while, in Kentucky, where I lived for a while, and then in Illinois. But the title Stranger, I think, is, it kind of embodies like a lot of different things. After the birth of my first child, I was kind of terrified of writing. The idea of like writing about being a parent or a father was really scary to me. I was worried about it being like sentimental or precious, so I just didn't write about it for years. So I'm so glad there's a little one here tonight. So the idea, the title of the book, The Stranger, is meant to be my daughter Penny, but it's also meant to be myself and my partner, and the way the world sort of changes in these ways and becomes new or strange. And so it took me a while to sort of figure out how to write about parenthood, and The door kind of opened up when I realized, well, when Penny started talking, I realized I could steal things from her. She said really smart, poetic things. And so I'll read this poem that it takes a line from something she said one fall, kind of on a day like this when the leaves were falling off the trees. And she said, "Dad, look, the trees are falling off the leaves." You know, it's like a 3-year-old saying this. I'm just like, okay. I've got my opening line to my next poem, so thank you. Thank you, Penny. She gets a portion of my royalties. You guys know what that means. Elegant comparison. With the trees falling off the leaves, the unworldliness of this moment means less and less, until it means more and more. Perhaps like an undeserved term of endearment more deserved than the rest. How do you manage to maintain such a smeared poker face in the mind of what remains? Most mirages exist, urge us on, and then resist no longer. Your stage left is not my stage left, because we're in the business of the overly obvious, like a past tense past due, like a squirrel in a trash can, like a sensible sense of being. For the first fog of October. If an idea exists but is never found, then the stained glass windows will reflect nothing back to the ear. Most days filter through the mind, waiting not for movement but for a road to be built, brick by brick, word by word, weariness replaced with joy. But what is joy without the years and the way they open up constantly, 2 or 3 hearts pumping a volume of blood meant for just one? Our disbelief in the ordinary emerges from the way we color routine. Leaves pile up depending on the wind, but why pause to notice? Eventually the seasons embrace what our words will not. The illuminated day, just one of 1,000 others. And the names we give back to the world mean ultimately little against the way the sun pleads sense from the smallest cradle of dew. Have you ever a cookie before? I'm going to read the last poem now from, no, I'm not going to read this poem. I always make these lists, and I'm like, I'm going to read these poems, and then I get up here and things change, so I hope that's okay. It's spontaneous. I'll read another poem about my daughter. We spend a lot of time in our summers on Lake Superior in Michigan, which is just kind of like an amazing place. I mean, here, it's part of the country reminds me a lot of it. It's very beautiful. My daughter has this habit of sort of collecting rocks from Lake Superior. She starts like first thing in the morning, and then by the time she goes to bed, there's like 6 or 7 buckets of rocks in our house. So my wife and I go out and sort of dump them all back into the water after she's asleep. So this poem kind of started off, I think in a lot of ways, it's actually an assignment. I think my students write an apology poem, and this poem is sort of meant to be an apology to Lake Superior, but it kind of took on its own life. So, forecast and its failure. Penny collecting rocks from the shore each day, a pile on the piano bench, some underfoot, others disrupting the smooth rhythm of the kitchen table. Flint, quartz, basalt, sea glass, chert. Moments become disallowed from memory, the shallows of the day like the shadows of the day. While she sleeps, we return the rocks to water, as if the negation of a moment also admits its existence. Each day begins with a rock in the palm. The lake exists to saddle our apology. This poem was not erased from another. Here, life mirrors what we can't quite speak. Our skin seems too alive to hold us in. Trading in a wishbone for a branch, broth boiling on the wood stove, a family of loons circle from above, sand making the water deeper than it should be, a hummingbird too big to be a hummingbird. It's like really big hummingbirds. Sort of fight each other. read the last poem from the book now. I love the broadside. It's like so. Like Dan didn't tell me till like I think last week this is happening. It's so happy and it's so beautiful. Called What I Remember. Even our resting bodies will not illuminate the rooms of our childhood. Where did what I remember go? My daughter's hands managed to be little knives in each of her delicate urgings. Look how even the sky drifts down to tiny shreds of light. Look how I see myself growing wiser the less I learn. She said that one day. She said, "Daddy, my hands are like little knives." Kind of scary. And then get into a poem. A lot of these poems are poems that come from exercises I've given my students. I feel like it's only fair to do that. If I'm going to force them to write a poem, I should probably do the same thing. So maybe I'll read one of those. In the summertime, I teach at Kenyon College. I teach young writers there, and they're juniors and sophomores in high school, and they're just so amazing. They write these amazing poems. And we spend like about 6 hours a day together just writing. And we do everything with them. We write poems. So we read a James Wright poem. I think A Blessing was the poem. And then we read a Rachel Zucker poem, which is kind of like, so the James Wright poem is this like pastoral poem. It's all about nature and touching a horse and breaking in a blossom. It's amazing. I love James Wright. But Rachel Zucker has this poem, and it's kind of like an anti-pastoral poem, where she's like, I don't believe in the pastoral, and she's kind of railing on James Wright. I love that poem too. So the assignment was basically like, pick any poem in this book and like write an anti-poem, like the opposite of it. But what I ended up doing was like writing an anti-pastoral poem, so the anti-Rachel Zucker poem. So it's just, I think it's a pastoral poem. But I lived in Kentucky for about 3 years, so this poem is kind of about that, and about horses, and I don't think there's any bourbon in this poem, but if you're in Kentucky, you write about bourbon, so, and horses, of course. So it's called This Pastoral Way of Living, and it's for Rachel Zucker and James Wright. To break open a season with your hands would mean disregarding our own perceptions by replacing them with the obsessions of others. In light, the world exists through our knowledge of the sky, tree limbs, and all types of weather, as if anything could fall, as if anything could be categorized so simply as either weightless or disruptive. I step over raised dirt most days, pretend that its existence can be its own type of belonging. The trees do not move unless the earth thinks to release them. Should we be envious of their immobility? Would it be sensible to pause daily in a sense of knowledge or fear? And what else? I don't entirely believe that one must see something to understand it. In Kentucky, there are horses everywhere, and there are hundreds of roads you can take to see them. I believe in the pastoral because I live in the pastoral. The trees are so bucolic here. They call out at the end of the day, bent under the weight of our unknowing. Some days I take the dogs out to run at land once owned by the Boone family. There I watch the blades of grass stir, and I pause to think about the complications language can bring into the world, a world we can lie down in, a world where often the horses disregard our presence. Like a double fence along the highway, the mind is an expanse. Oh, there's always an end, a border. From one thought to another, I'm calling out to you. I'm calling out to you, as if we're building a nest, one word at a time. I'm going to read, maybe I'll read a few new poems. After reading that sort of pastoral poem, maybe I'll read this other James Wright-ish poem. I spent a lot of time doing these readings on the road with two really, really close friends, Michael Robbins and Ava Malone. And we spent about 8 or 9 days on the road together, driving around, reading different places, colleges or bookstores, different middle schools sometimes, all kinds of different places. But we do this thing where when you read, it's not a reading like this one necessarily, but like I would read a poem to start the reading, and then Ada would read a poem that has to connect to my poem somehow. And then Michael does the same thing. It's just kind of like rotating thing. So the only trick is that on that day, when you go first, you have to read a poem you've written that day. So we're all kind of writing poems over a little bit. So this poem came after me and Michael were going to pick Kate up at the airport, and we stopped off and we saw some horses, and so it felt like a very James Wright poem. So, it's called Just Off a Highway in North Central Missouri. To drive across a state so as to change the weather from a purple pennant unfolding into a train circling itself, not only its tail, but rather its path. How many rivers to cross in a single day? In our implicit design, we are meant to lose count. And in this fault, we find acceptance, for we see too easily where the mind is headed, not like the mouse and its lack of foresight. One moment here, and another it flies above and beyond to a slab of concrete 100 miles from what might as well be another star. And then, a blink, and another droning from the wind, pushing against the force of the hand, a shifting without folding of darkness or kindness. If right now I were to break into anything, it would be those trees lining the field, looking nearly dead, for in their rickety limbs and their gray bark, there lies a promise too great for even the wrong season to take away, or for even the strongest wind to maim. It's funny because we're all seeing the same things and writing these poems, all these images end up in our poems. We were driving through Oklahoma one time, and there was a fence up, and there was a cow on one end, and a baby calf on the other side of the fence trying to get across back into the field. Just those moments you're like, that's going to the poem. We all have that. There are 3 poems in the world with that image in it. So, I'll read maybe a few more new poems. Meditation for the Silence of the Morning. This is the opening poem in what will be my next book. I wake myself imagining the shape of the day and where I will find myself within it. Language is not often in that shape, but sentences survive somehow through the islands of dark matter, the negative space often more important than the positive. Imagine finding you look at the world completely different upon waking one day. You do not know if this is permanent. Anything can change, after all. For how else would you find yourself in this predicament or this opportunity, depending on the frame? A single thought can make loneliness seem frighteningly new. We destroy the paths of rivers to make room for the sea. So I'll read maybe a few more poems from Stranger, and we'll close with your 3 poem warning. It's always good to know where you are in a poetry reading sometimes. So I'll read this poem called Our Eternal Sounds, which I think is a poem that maybe your class spent some time with. Our Eternal Sounds. What might all songs lean into? You scramble eggs one moment, and in the next minute you're eating them with dry toast and black coffee in silence. On a day like any day, your voice is not your own. The grass clippings disrupt a robin too large to fly from worm to worm. We don't know why we speak, but yet our voices persist, even when void of substance, like a dream you'd like to recall throughout the day, but you don't or you can't, and after a week it's gone forever. Of course, our voices evolve years before our bodies. Our vocal cords vibrate like a heartbeat senselessly. No explanation needed. Eventually, all languages converge. Each thought falls into all others. And what thought resists being built by words? Perhaps fear placed us here in this room together. A fear of fire at one point turned into a fear of God. After that, a fear of godlessness. A room where a word before another word, and another word after the first was all we had, all we could imagine. Somehow an image means more than the object itself, but not because it's made of words. Most likely, it's because the act of creation sets the mind down like a bird, in a field, where the speed of the invasive cannot exist. sort of was like, it went on and on. It was, yeah. It was, so you've got friends. You've got good friends. On silence and sleep. The days remain themselves from this vantage point, a curtain drawn around a world void of sense, just long enough to be logical. I don't recall those first moments we spoke, the weather, or what conflict could have been occurring in the neighborhoods carved out around us, its developments somehow the best indication of repression, even in the sober light of the world's sway. At times, I begin to imagine conversations before they happen, car accidents occurring 1,000 miles away, or a building being built before its foundation is even imagined. All of this is to say or explain my tendency towards silence, even if your stance remains unexplained for the time being, something I mull over, consider, accept. When I wake up each morning, I think of the day that Hopkins encountered, one darker than night, one filled with gall and heartburn, an ocean of oceans fumbling in and over and through the mind. And what does this reveal about one's thoughts, or could it be the same for all of us? I know there are those who wake up at peace, rested, quietly considering the life of the day and how to live it. There are those who don't sleep at all for fear of never waking up. And then there are those so young they've yet to have their mind directed toward either possibility, although it's only a matter of time before it happens, which we have to accept too. A nightmare woke Penny last night, her head buried under her blanket when I went in to console her and bring her to bed with us. And then this morning I woke before her, memorized her face in the gray morning light, her mouth moving in sleep as though or because another life was happening there. All right, so I'll read just one more poem. It's actually not my poem. I'm going to close with someone else's poem. Poet who died today, actually, Bridget Keegan-Cowley, who I've loved her work for a long time, and I thought it'd be nice to read a poem verse here today. So it's called Dead Doe, and it's for Huck. And thank you all. It's so nice to be here. The piece was so great. Thank you so much. It was a joy to share the stage with you. Thank you so much. Dead Doe for Huck. The doe lay dead on her back in a field of asters. No. The doe lay dead on her back beside the school bus stop. Yes. Where we waited, her belly white as a cut pear. Where we waited, no. Off from where we waited, yes. At a distance, making a distance we kept, as we kept her dead run in sight, that we might see if she chose to go skyward. This we might run too, turn tail, if she came nearer, and troubled our fear with presence, with ghostly blossoming, with the fountain's unstoppable blossoming, and the black stain the algae makes when the water stays near. We can take the gilt edge strolling off the clouds, yes. But the risen from the dead, no. The halo-y troubleshooting of the goldfinches in the bush, yes. But in season, kept within bounds. Not in the pyrated rows of corn, not above winter's pittance of river. The doe lay dead, yes. She lent her deadness to the morning, that that morning might have weight, that our waiting might matter, be upheld by significance, by light on the rhododendrons, by the ribbons that sucked mint loosed on the air, by the treasonous gold-leaved passage of season, and you from me, child from me, from not mother, no, but the weather that would hold you, yes. Hothouse you to the fattest blooms, keep you in mind, unceasing rain, and the fixed stations of heat like a pedal note, or the held breath sucked in and stay, yes, stay, but no, done can't be. The doe lay dead, she could do nothing. The dead can mother nothing, but our sight, they mother that, whether they wilt or no. They mother out looking, the gap the tongue prods when the tooth is missing, when fancy seeks the space, the doe lay dead, yes. And at a distance, with her legs and frozen, she tricked our vision. At a distance, she was for a moment no deer at all, but two swans. We saw two swans, and they were fighting, or they were coupling, or they were stabbing the ground for some prize worth noting, but fought over. So worth that, worth the fought over glowiness, the morning's fragile, tubed glory. And this is the soul, like it or not. Yes, the soul comes down. Yes, comes into the deer. Yes, who dies. Yes, in her death twins herself into swan, fools us with mist and accident into believing her newfound finery. And we are not afraid, though we should be. And we are not afraid as we watch her soul fly on, paired as a soul always is with itself, with others, two swans. Child, we are done for in the most remarkable ways.
So we have time for a Q&A. If you guys have any questions for the gang?
Yes.
I thought this idea of the anti-poem was kind of interesting. And I wonder if you've ever written an anti-Robert Frost poem.
I think I have. It's a very long poem, and I love Frost though. He's sort of one of my poets I always go to. But I don't know if I've ever done an anti-Robert Frost poem. I mean, I guess I've written a lot of Freeverse poems. He said that was like about playing tennis without the net, right? So, yes. Yeah. I think one of his poems directed was a poem I'm always sort of thinking about. It's like one of my favorite Robert Frost poems. And I think I think he's like very misunderstood in a lot of ways. Like I love how complicated his poems are, and so I'm always thinking about, I don't know, maybe my poems are Robert Frost poems. I'm gonna write an anti-Robert Frost poem for you, John.
They made me think of it.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering that would, like, honestly, like, first of all, I had no idea. I don't know if, like, who was supposed to, but, like, I didn't know you could write like that. And, like, I cried, like, it was, like, beautiful, and it, like, touched my heart, and, like, poked out with a stick. But I'm wondering, like, how, like, what was your revision process? Like, was it so different, from, like, in the beginning, or, like, what?
I think like something, when I initially wrote it, there like weren't as many scenes, so like that scene that happened when I was talking to my Patty, that wasn't in there, and like my conversation with my mom wasn't in there. That was something Dan told me to like put more scenes and like show us these things happening, and not just like talk about movies. I like added that.
Also cut the profanity by about 80%.
Yeah. There was some edits we did. The moon wasn't originally big white cookie. So.
No. Yeah, what was the original
It
one?
was a big fucking cookie. I was excited.
Cool.
I'd like to actually pivot that same question to
Yeah.
Adam to talk about the revision process a little bit.
Yeah, I tend to like write, I guess I should use my voice is not here, but I tend to write like a lot of poems. So like Stranger probably 200 other pages of poetry into one of this. So I tend to like just write a lot kind of almost recklessly. Just produce a lot of work and then go back later and try to figure out like what's working. If I can really like say like what makes a poem like sort of make the cut, or something kind of feels right to me about it. I don't know. I like to print poems off and like kind of put them on my wall and sort of live with them. I think it's like good to separate yourself from the writing when you write, you know, so I tend to print them off. And also like play with it visually on the page, because sometimes like a poem might be in couplets, but then you realize if you put it into one block of text, it changes the poem completely. So a lot of it's not so much about like the language, a lot of it's about just kind of playing with like the work on the page, which I think from that is. Yeah, and I'm also like I cut a lot. Like, the nice thing about writing a lot, I think too, is that you feel freedom to like throw things away more. Like, I don't know, like I read this quote from this Alice Isle quote that says like, we imitate the poets that we love, Robert Frost maybe. We imitate them, we fail at imitating them, and in like imitating them, we find our own voice. And I love that idea of like writing is like a type of failure in some ways, you know? So it kind of makes it seem like less precious if you write a lot. If you write like one poem like a month, you're not gonna throw anything away. But I can be kind of like liberal with in terms of like what I think about. So,
So this is for you, also Amanda, that was incredible, love this so much. So you were talking about when you were writing, I think, the poem, it kind of started out as almost an apology to like superior because of your assignment. So I'm wondering if you as a poet, do you sit down and have something in mind to write about, or do you sit down and start writing and then something comes to your mind?
yeah, that's a good question. I used to sort of, when I was in college, writing for me was kind of this like thing that I would do when I was like inspired. Like I get an idea, like, oh, that's a great idea for a poem, and I'd write it. But what I found was that moment of inspiration didn't come often enough. Like it would be like, oh God, like I haven't written in a while.
Yeah.
And my teachers would all tell me like, if you want to be a good writer, you have to read a lot, And I was like, I'm not gonna read anything. I'm so original, so unique. I don't want to be influenced by anything, right? Now that I'm a teacher myself, I think that's changed the way I think about it. I tend to like not, when I write, I don't write just with like a blank like piece of paper or like the Microsoft document open. I tend to have like a book next to me, something that I'm reading, kind of thinking about like a conversation with something. So sometimes my poems are like a translation of a poem from English to English.
That's incredible, I love that.
Yeah, like a lot of what the elite poets have done, some of these exercises where you like, there's like false translations, there's this idea of like translating the poem from English to English, but you can't use any words that have the letter E in it. So a lot of it's just like trying to like, it's like exercise. A lot of these poems come from these sort of like exercises that I do, and it's a way of like, I don't know, like Dean Slovertov says, like when you write every day, you're like setting the table for the muse. So like when those moments of inspiration come, like, okay, I'm ready for it.
That's so interesting, considering this assignment, we have to use 5 nouns for one.
I heard this, yeah.
And then write a poem,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, because our vocabularies are so limited, right? Like we know what we know, but like, I open up like Wallace Stevens and I'm like, oh, there's some words here. I don't know these words. I'm gonna use them in my poem. So I think that's, so it's, for me, it's like definitely thinking about like a conversation with someone else's work. Yeah, that's a great question. You want to?
Oh, wait.
Would you like to answer?
Yeah. I haven't done much independent writing. Usually it's like when a professor is like, you have to write this. And then that night I'm like, I gotta do it.
Yeah.
So I guess usually I think I have something in mind first though.
Yeah.
I might just ask, like, you've been talking a lot about assignments and various, like, is there one that you think of as like particularly generative, either for you or for your students, where you're just like, that's the assignment that I put in this part of the semester where everyone's sleepy because it's gonna create a great thing, or just something that you've done with your students and you've just been like, oh, this is too, I'm thinking about The Wall, the Donald Justice sonnet that he wrote in Berryman's workshop, and Berryman like read it and said, this is too good to have come from an assignment.
Yeah.
Like, have you had that experience where you're just like, an assignment led to this?
Yeah, I do this thing, it's about halfway through the semester when like kind of the workshop is gelled, when they're like all really close. And we do this thing where we look at a few poems by like a poet. I pick like, it might be Ashbery, it might be, I don't know, Quanberry. It could be like, we just pick
Any berry.
Pick any berry, yeah. And I kind of say like, let's look at this poet and let's kind of like find some, what are their moves, like what are the things they do in their poems. And then I have the students do the same thing with their own work. So they go through their poems and like, what are the things you do a lot of? And so then we go around the room and talk about this, and they say what their list is, but then the rest of the class kind of chimes in, like, oh, you do this a lot, you have a lot of pronouns in your bar, you have a lot of semicolons, or whatever it is, And then the assignment is to like write the uber you, like take these things and write the poem that's like way off, like use and like just magnify them, and then I have them write the anti you poem, like do the opposite of that, and they're often like the best poems. I sometimes have them like send them to me, and then I put them all into a document without names on them. And
We're planning on doing this.
okay, yeah, and then we read them as a class and try to figure out, okay, is this Courtney's anti-poem, or is this Bobby's Uber poem? You know what I mean? Like, it's like this kind of discussion about like that. But I think just like maybe being like hyper conscious about what we do. I think sometimes we kind of like have really amazing like results. So yeah, that's a good question.
Thank you, guys. I'll just tell you all quickly, as a reminder, tomorrow at 12:30 in Faculty Parlors, Adam Clay is going to be doing a master class, a sort of informal discussion of poetry and publishing and digital publishing and life, writing, and he'll show you pictures of Penny, I bet, if you ask nicely. She's adorable and it's good. And a week from tonight is the Healing Muse launch reading. It's their 16th, 17th issue, something like that. And Bruce Bennett will be reading, Tori Russell, who graduated last year, will be reading, and maybe something like 8 other contributors to the magazine. It will be great and fun and wonderful, so I hope you can make it out next Thursday. As a reminder, Adam's book and the broadside are both here for your perusal. Come up, check them out, say hi. And thank you all again for coming out, and I hope to see you all next week.